What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the channel. We're starting to see a lot more activity in the housing market lately, and buyers are starting to come back to the housing market, and people are kind of getting over the shock of the super high interest rates. And so there's something that we're starting to see many buyers do in this housing market that makes a really big difference in how the home buying process goes for a buyer. So let's talk about what that mistake is and how it could affect your home buying process. It all kind of has to do with whether we're in a buyer's market or a seller's market. And in the fall and winter of 2022, a lot of buyers kind of went away from the housing market as interest rates shot up to 6 or 7%. And people were really surprised by the super high interest rates and starting to think that maybe the housing market was going to crash, which it didn't. And so those buyers really pulled away from the housing market at that time. And that market kind of became a buyer's market because there were not a lot of buyers during that time. So the few buyers that were left, it kind of became advantageous for those buyers. But now, as more buyers are coming back, and there seem to be more buyers than there are listings, we're starting to get back into a seller's market. And the mistake that I'm seeing that is really causing buyers to overpay for homes or not get repairs on their homes all has to do with the fact that we're getting back into a seller's market. So let's talk about how this market is shaping out, and let's talk about what that mistake is and how you can avoid that. There's no question that as more buyers come onto the market, the demand for homes is increasing. So we're seeing a lot less average days on market for each listing. In February, the average days that a home was on the market before going under contract was 25 days. In March, the average days on market was 17 days. And in April, the average days on market was 11 days. And as we've said many times before, as days on market decrease, this means that the demand for housing is increasing. So not only is demand for housing increasing, but it is shooting up very quickly right now as we enter the spring and summer months. And undoubtedly, one of the biggest factors for why demand is increasing is interest rates. According to Mortgage News Daily, which is a great resource for checking out interest rates and what banks are offering for interest rates for mortgages, the average interest rate in February was about 7%. And this was kind of the peak of the interest rates, about as high as we've been seeing for the last few months is 7%. And then after February, in March, interest rates went down to about 6.5%. So people are getting over the shock of the high interest rates, and interest rates are coming down. So there's no question that that's one of the reasons why people are coming back to the market. And then in April, interest rates went up just a bit to about 6.75%. And I would assume that in the coming up months, interest rates will just continue to fluctuate between 7 and 6%. In fact, I've heard of a lot of people lately who are getting interest rates as low as 6% or 6.1%. So the interest rates that we're seeing on that website is really just like an average. Each lender is different and each lender has their own loan programs. So you can certainly get an interest rate a little bit less than that average. And one great way to do that is to get multiple quotes from lenders. So if you talk to 3 different lenders and you get 3 different interest rate quotes, what you can do is you can call one of those lenders back and say, hey, this lender over here is offering a better interest rate. Can you beat that? And then that way you kind of get them to go down on their interest rate, ideally getting a really good interest rate at the end. And then another important factor for the housing market is the average sales price in Metro Atlanta. If you're thinking about moving to Atlanta or any of the cities around Atlanta, feel free to call, text, or email me anytime. Thank you so much to everyone who has reached out. I'm always happy to help. So the average sales price, what we've been seeing in the last few months, is that they're starting to go back up. As you can imagine, when demand comes back into the market, average sales price is going up. In February, the average sales price in Metro Atlanta was $390,000. In March, the average sales price was 395,000, and in April, the average sales price went up to 405,000. And there's no question that in the coming up months in May, June, July, we will continue to see average home values increasing throughout the spring and summer. So are we headed for a housing market crash? Obviously not. There's still lots of demand for homes. Even with the higher interest rates, we're not even close to a housing market crash. And then another question that I get often is it a good time to buy? And while many real estate agents will say, yes, now is a good time to buy, real estate agents always say that, like, now, yeah, now is the right time to buy. And rightfully so, people are kind of skeptical of that sometimes because some agents don't really have the best interest in mind for their client. But if you think about it, pre 2020, real estate agents were saying now's the right time to buy. And many people were like, nah, the housing market's going to crash. And then 2020 came along and we saw that housing prices skyrocketed and interest rates went super low. And people were like, Mom, I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait because I'm pretty sure that the housing market is going to crash. And then after 2020, now that we're kind of back to pre-pandemic market stats, lots of real estate agents are saying, yeah, now's the right time to buy. And still people are saying, I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait. And so it doesn't really look like it's getting easier to buy a home, unfortunately. It's just getting more difficult to buy a home. And so that's why not making this home buyer mistake is super crucial. So let's talk about what that home buyer mistake is and how you can avoid that. When it comes to listing homes, what we're seeing is two different things. There are homes that are move-in ready and are priced well, and they typically get listed like on a Thursday or Friday, and they go through the weekend, they get 3 to 5 offers, and by Monday they're under contract and the buyer has overpaid for the home because they're trying to beat out the other offers. And then there's the other listings that maybe were not move-in ready when they got listed, or maybe they were overpriced by 10 to 20,000 and have now had a price cut. But these homes have now been on the market for a few weeks to a few months. And for many people, they see that this home has been on the market for 30 days or whatever, and they're like, oh, there must be something wrong with that home. And there isn't necessarily something wrong with the homes that have been on the market for a few weeks to a few months. It's just that maybe they were not move-in ready when they got listed, or maybe there weren't pictures available during that first week of being listed, or maybe they've had a price cut now that the seller has kind of realized, oh, we were a little bit overpriced. So they have a price cut and now the house is more appropriately priced, but it's been on the market for 30 days and people kind of shy away from that. And the biggest mistake that we can make is trying to go for the houses that are brand new to the market and jump into the pit of the multiple offer situations, which very often leads to overpaying for the home or not being able to get repairs on a home after an inspection. Whereas if you are looking at homes that have been on the market for a few weeks at least, you tend to not have to make all of those compromises when buying a home. And it's these listings that have been on the market for a while where you can kind of get a deal on the home. You don't have to offer list price. You can offer below list price. And if you have an inspection and the inspector finds that there are some problems with the home, which they always do, you can ideally get the seller to make some repairs because, again, they don't have other offers. Those homes that have multiple offers, the sellers are less likely to make repairs because they can just sell it to the next person who has offered to buy the home. Whereas the homes that don't have multiple offers, again, you can get the seller to make some repairs because they're more willing to get that home sold. So while it can be kind of tempting to go for the homes that are brand new to the market, it's the homes that have been on the market for a few weeks where you can get the deal and you can get, closings on your terms instead of the seller's terms. And that makes the world of difference in this housing market where it's becoming more and more difficult to buy a home. And not only is it becoming more difficult to buy a home, but it's becoming more complicated or more confusing to buy a home. There are so many factors, especially if you're moving to Metro Atlanta from out of state. There are so many questions involved with how you make that move to another state in this crazy housing market. If you want to know more about how to make that transition more easily, I've got a great video where you can start and get all the information you need about making the move to Metro Atlanta. Here it is. I'll see you there.